In this video, we discuss the jet engines. In the video before the propeller clip, we discussed the piston engines to explain the principle of how heat can be transferred into mechanical work. Today we will look at the continuous combustion engines, and there are a number of different types which use this principle. It's sometimes also called the rotary compressor. And we will look at them and see how they work, and also see that in essence, from a physics perspective, they use the same principles. So what happens? Continuous combustion refers to the fact that there are no specific strokes or cycles which we go through, but the air basically goes through the different phases from left to right in our diagram here, from intake to exhaust. The air passes, is being compressed, heated, and expands again. So all the cycles which we know from a piston engines, you can still see in this engine. You see the intake, then the air is being compressed by a successive number of compression blades, and then it's heated in the combustion chamber, and then at higher temperature it expands again, does its work, and leaves the engine via the exhaust. This work is transferred to the compressor not by an X via different cylinders, but in this case it's transferred via the axis which connects the turbine blades at the end, indicated in orange here, with the compressor blades at the intake of the engine. You can also remember it in a very short way. Basically, the principles are the same as a piston engine. It's suck, squeeze, bang, and blow, as it sometimes is referred to. And be aware that often you hear about a jet blast, but there's also a suction in front of a jet engine that you have to be careful of. And this was experienced by this officer at the desk of a aircraft carrier, as we can see in the next video clip. So the jet blast is well known for its danger, but the suction of the jet, this guy gets too close, being sucked into the engine, and don't be scared by all the pieces coming out at the back, because this guy actually survived. And a few hours later, you see him here sitting in a television show, telling the audience about this ordeal. But so, mind also the suction of a jet. That's very dangerous. Well, how this is mechanized? Well, the simplest way is basically, the easiest way is the ramjet. The ramjet, where air comes in from this side here, from the left side, and simply by its high airspeed and the shape of the channel in which the air passes, the air is being compressed, then it's heated, and then it wants to expand and creates this higher speed at the exhaust. This ramjet is very simple. It was used on the V1, but it's also not very efficient. It only works at very high speeds. And it turns out that it's much more efficient to use some of the energy of the air while it leaves the engine via the exhaust to also compress the air. And that's the basic principle of the gas turbine, as we see it on this picture here, the turbojet. To use the energy of the air when it leaves the engine of the exhaust, a turbine rotates in this high-speed air, and via a shaft, this is connected to the compressor blades, which allow a higher rate of compression. And if you remember our PV diagram, and the cycle which we had there, V, P, then we had a cycle like this. Air expands, and it was connected in this way. So here it's compressed, and imagine that if we compress it further, you basically increase the enclosed area, and therefore you can generate more work. So adding more compression increases the efficiency of your engine, and this is what the turbojet does in comparison with the ramjet. Well, another way to increase the efficiency of the engine is to add, while you are expanding in the hot phase, so this is the cold, the compression, and this is the hot, the expansion. Well, if you, during the expansion, suddenly increase the temperature further, and generate a very high temperature there, this is also a way to increase the enclosed area and to increase the amount of work that's being created. It's not the most efficient way, but it is what is done in the afterburner, where you basically have extra fuel in the hot exhaust, which ignites automatically. You see the jet fighters to basically let the engines give an extra kick for a short while, because it's not a very efficient way. It's close to the ramjet way of generating propulsion, but it is a way to increase the thrust generated by this engine. Well, the energy that's in the exhaust can be used as a simple reaction propulsion, but you can also use the energy in a different way. When you have this continuous combustion engine, you add an extra turbine, you can decelerate the air again, and you have a lot of power on the shaft. You have a lot of shaft power, which you can connect to a propeller or a rotor. And this is the basic principle of what we call the turboprop engine when a propeller is connected to the shaft, or the turbo shaft when it's used for a helicopter to drive a rotor. Of course, the speed of a jet engine, the rotation speed, is higher than often is required for the propeller. So this requires a gearbox to slow it down. And there, of course, you lose some energy. But since propellers are very efficient in their propulsion, more efficient than the exhaust of a jet engine, this is one of the most efficient engines that there is. This extra turbine that's used here for the propeller of the shaft, you can also connect it with an extra compressor or a fan which you have in a ducted channel. And this is the basic principle of a turbo fan motor, where you add an extra fan or compressor to the shaft, and this results in what we call the turbofan engine. And you see here the green, the extra shaft indicated in green, the turbine, the low pressure turbine, which partly drives an extra compressor, but also partly drives a fan, which accelerates more air around the engine, which is the cold air, doesn't pass through the combustion phase, but still is able to generate a high amount of thrust in this way. Why is this done? Why would you do it like this, or do it the pure jet way, the turbojet way? When would you use turbofan or turbojet? Well, you may have seen that nowadays, while many things, when they are more modern, get smaller, that jet engines have actually become much larger. You can clearly see older aircraft having smaller jet engines and the more modern airliners having huge engines. Why is this? We'll have a look at this in the next video clip.